Hi, in this video I'll show you exactly how to generate a ready-to-outreach lead database in one click with the right decision makers and validated emails. This is a real client project who gave me a list of more than 8,000 companies, and I was in charge to find the email from the decision makers and the website. So this is what they gave me. So this is just a sample, and I run this workflow, and from there this is what I get. You see all these contacts that are decision makers, CEO, sales or marketing decision makers, and often we also get the LinkedIn URL. So let's see how we have built that. Hey, I'm Alex, an N8N expert, ambassador, and automation consultant for agencies and B2B companies. I share practical AI automation to help you save time, money, and scale your business. Every week, I showcase actionable workflows to boost your results, whether you're an agency or a business owner. So if you want to take your automation to the next level or get a personalized audit of your agency or company, you can book a free strategy call with me. The link is below. So this is a plan of what we are going to do step by step. First, we are going to configure NocoDB and to see all the fields that we need. We need a table for companies and a table for contacts. Then in N8N, we're going to get all these companies and search the URL and the domain using Serper.dev. This will give you several URLs, and we are going to filter them using OpenAI to find the really relevant one. Then from this domain, we are going to search the decision makers using AnyMailFinder API, and we're going to search in 3 categories: sales, marketing, and CEOs. From there, it will tell us if we have an email for a company and if this email is fully validated or if it's still risky. If a company doesn't have any email validated or if they are all risky, in this case, we are going to call again AnyMailFinder with another endpoint to find all the company emails as fallback. And then we will log everything back in NocoDB. We will also see how this workflow can scale, because I have run it for 9,000 companies and it is done for scaling. So for that, I have some loops, some rate limiting, and also error handling and all that. So we're going to see all that. So let's dive in now. And don't worry, it's not complicated even if you are beginning. At the end, you will be able to download the full workflow in the link below. This template is designed for agencies that want to save massive time and boost deliverability. So first, let's configure NocoDB. So I've chosen NocoDB because it's open source, and so I have more than 8,000 companies to treat, and in Airtable it would have been much more expensive. And in Google Sheet, I would have not the possibility to link, for example, the companies to the contacts, and personally, I really prefer how this look than in Google Sheet. Okay, so first we have a table, companies, and we need the company names, the location. So this is what the client already gave me. We can have the position, for example, if we want to target certain position. This is additional. We have not done it for this case, but this is a possibility. Then the URL that we will find, the domain, and here we will put all the emails, the fallback emails from the company and their status, and this is the status of the whole workflow, if it's searching for the domain, if you have found the domain, if you have found emails, if these emails are risky, etc. And here's the contact. So how do I dig the contact? So this field, if I edit it, we can see that it's a link field and it's configured as many, because one company can have many contacts. And this will create automatically, in the contact table, this company field. In the contact table, I need a name, the position, the email status, the LinkedIn URL. Here I have put notes. I'm not using it, but it's nice to have if we want to have notes on a lead later. And so all the companies will appear here. So as a result, this is what I will have. For example, for a company, then if I click here, I can see, you know, all the information about the contacts directly from this table. And in the same way, if I go to the contacts table, here I can see all the information of the linked company automatically. And this is not possible in Google Sheet, and I can also have a gallery view, which is really nice for that, you see, and that's it. So now let's dive into N8N. Now in N8N, we start the workflow either with a manual trigger, a scheduled trigger, or we can also set a webhook. And the first node is a NocoDB node where we will retrieve the companies. So the operation is get many. There is no workspace. The database here is demo, and we have two tables, companies and contacts. And here I set return all because if I don't, by default, it limits to 50. So here we can retrieve them all. And here I get the company name and location, which are the two things I need. Then I have a loop node. So if you don't have many companies on the list, there's no need to loop. But here, what I wanted to do is, on one hand, OpenAI has a rate limit, so I want to minimize the damage. So from there, I calculated that with ChatGPT to know how many I needed to do. It told me I could go up to 500 companies here and then put a wait of 1 minute. Well, here I set it to 5 and 1 second because I ran it to make it run quickly. But in the actual execution, I had set 501 minutes here. So what I also want is that every 500 companies, the number of companies in the loop as it goes. So there it will go through the entire workflow and register everything in our Codebase. So in case something breaks along the way, I have still stored everything already and I can resume where it broke. Well, for your information, it didn't break. It ran for 6 hours and retrieved all the companies, so it shouldn't be a problem. And here here what I also do is that then so I put the weight, and here I put a filter because the status is needed. So here I have my status, okay, of my companies. And so if it is empty, it means it hasn't been processed yet. Otherwise, it will immediately have something in the status, so it found the domain or it didn't find it. So if it's empty, it means it hasn't been processed yet. So actually, this filter is there in case there's a problem and I need to resume my workflow. I only resume on the lines that haven't been processed, and we don't go over the same line twice. So there you go. So here it's not necessary, but it's really, these are safeguards to ensure everything runs smoothly and is truly scalable. Next, I move to an HTTP node. So if you don't know how to use HTTP nodes, you can see it in this video. And I use Serper.dev. So Serper.dev, which is here. So there you have it. For $50, 1,000 credits for $1. So it's really cheap. And here, there you go. Actually, it's a Google search. So we'll find the website, the URL, etc. But we will find several, so we will need to sort them afterwards. So there you go. So here I created a login, okay? And so this is the URL. It's a post method, and I need the queue parameter. So here it's the company name. Well, I've put something in case it's empty, it breaks too. So I put something generic as a security measure if it's empty, and the location that I get from here. And so from there, it finds me in the organic field. I have several URLs, okay? But they are not all good. Sometimes it gives me Facebook or things like that, and we don't want that. There you go. Instagram, for example, all the places where my company appears in Google. So what we want is the official company website. So there you go. Once I've retrieved that, I move on to a node. Really, OpenAI that I set up with GPT 4.1 mini so that it still has quality, but is still quite fast and doesn't have too much rate limiting. because to give you an idea, during the 6 hours this workflow ran to find my more than 8,000 companies, 80 to 90% of the time was spent on that node. Okay, so that's really what took the most time. So here I pass on one side the company name, the location, and here are the organic results. So I passed that to Stringify to have them all. So if I open here, this is what it gives as a result. So OpenAI is going to consume all that and will output which are the correct URLs. And here I have a rather long prompt. So there it is, which is in English. The goal is to identify the official site and return a structured JSON as input. So we enter the parameters, there you go. Then we have quite a few rules, such as not selecting results from generic platforms like Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, etc. And there you go, and other rules. And then we specify what we want in the output format. So there you go. We won't read everything. You can read it if you get the workflow. There you go. And in output, I want JSON. So OpenAI has the output in JSON native. If you don't use an OpenAI node and you use, for example, the simple chain and add another language model, at that point, you will have to use the output parser with the corresponding schema in general. So when I want JSON, I like to use OpenAI because it's native and therefore I don't have to add that, and it's safer. So there you go. So here it gives me, there you go, the company name, the location, and then the URL. It extracts the domain and, well, it explains why it chose this URL, why it is the right one among those provided. And there you go. And when it doesn't find one, it also explains why none of the URLs match that. So there you go. Now we have all the domains we can find. And so now we are going to update the the company domains in NocoDB. So again, a NocoDB node. There you go, with the company table as always. And here, so in NocoDB, it's not auto-mapped like in Airtable or Google Sheet, but actually it's an advantage because at first I thought, it's annoying, it's not auto-mapped, so I have to do it manually and all. But actually, as soon as we have a workflow that we want to reuse, and so for example, this workflow, well, I'm going to connect a new database to it. I will need to reselect the table. And so here, since all of this is written manually, I had to create my field each time and put the field name and retrieve the value from the previous input. So one might think, oh, it's more annoying, etc. But actually no, because what happens is that with Google Sheet and Airtable, when we do that, when we attach a new base and a new table, they refresh everything, and so it erases everything we've put there. So whereas here it's done once and then it doesn't change. So honestly, I prefer that. I think it comes from N8N, and it would be nice to have the choice because it's good to have the ease at the start, but then having it remap as soon as we change is really not practical for reuse. So here I need the URL. So the URL, we get it here. But if there is no URL, I want the explanation of why there isn't one. So there you go. I put this, and the double bar, it's to say it's this, or if it's not this, it's that. Okay? So then I want the domain that came out there, so I put this here and the status. So here, this is what we call a ternary in code. So that means if I have a domain, if it exists, we will write domain found, and if not, we will write after the colon. This is, if the answer is yes, that's true, we write that, and if it's false, after the colon, we put the opportunity, well, the situation where it's false. So we write this second possibility. And then we need the ID, because if we update, we will always refer to the ID. So in Google Sheets or Airtable, we choose the field we want to synchronize on. Here, it's always the ID, and the ID doesn't come from the previous input, but it comes from the field where we retrieve all the rows. So from the get many rows. Okay, so there you go. So from there, it will fill in my fields here. Okay, it will fill this part. So the URL, the domain, there you go. Whether it found the domain or not, there you go. at this stage. That's where we are. Next. Then from there, we also have the domain, another clarification for all the nodes that make API calls. So for example, here, what I did to prevent it from breaking is I checked retry on fail and set it to a maximum of 3 times and to wait 1000 milliseconds between each attempt. And in case of an error, we continue, so it will send the error to my error workflow, but it will continue. There you go. So that's what I did for all the API calls. So now I have retrieved my domains when it finds them. So now I have these 3 nodes, which are AnyMailFinder. So if I go in there, let's look at AnyMailFinder and why I chose it. So AnyMailFinder in terms of price is really interesting. For example, for what I had to search, we took the monthly option since it's once 25,000 credits for 159 euros and by paying it for only 1 month. So for the number of contacts we get, so there are 8,200 companies for that price. I calculated it comes to 0.03 cents per company. So it's really very little. And again, we haven't used the 25,000 credits, I think, in this case. So AnyMailFinder, when I find an email of a decision maker and it's validated, it will cost me 2 credits. Otherwise, if it's not validated, if it's risky, we pay nothing. And then at the end, when we search for all the company's emails, up to 20 emails, it costs 1 credit. So there you go. So it's good and it works really well and it's fast because I've tried others that were much more troublesome than this one. And the API is not complicated. So about the API, the documentation is here. And first, there you go. I have several endpoints and one of them is find decision maker email listens. So that's this endpoint. So there you go. It is explained here that it costs 2 credits, which are charged only if a valid email is found, and it's free if it's risky, blacklisted, or not found. I didn't have any blacklisted or not found on the entire list I had. They were all risky. This means it hasn't been fully verified, but it doesn't mean it's not valid at all. So there you go. So we need to retrieve the API keys. And once again, I created a credential too. So you can also see that in my video on the HTTP notes, where I mentioned earlier how to create custom credentials. So there you go. So here we have a curl that we can import. So the authorization is in the header. Okay, it's an H, so it's a header. And here are the parameters. So the parameters, we can choose different types of decision makers. So it's CEO, engineering, finance, HR, marketing, operation, buyer, sales. So I chose to do it for the CEOs, for marketing, and for sales because they seem the most interesting in a company for making decisions. But if, for example, it's for someone in human resources, maybe we will look for HR. Okay, so and we can search by company or by field. So it's always better if we have the domain, but since there are places where we don't have the domain in the research we did, we will do some things that will search in both cases. So now we will go back to N8N. So there we have this URL and we have these parameters. So here, there you go. So I have a post, I have my URL, I created my credential, and here. And so in the body, I send its parameters. So we saw that it was either domain or company. So here again, I use a ternary. And so if my domain exists, I use the domain, otherwise the company name. And in the value, if the domain exists, we retrieve the domain, but otherwise we retrieve the company, which comes from the first node, get many rows. And here I have this split. That means that sometimes the company name also had a comma and then, for example, the department, which was useful for finding the domain, but not for what we're doing here. So since I have some company names with a comma, the split will create a stop. So it will create 2 elements. It will create an array of elements that is split at the comma, and I want the first one. So in the stops, we count starting from 0. So here we take element 0. There you go. From there, it returns to me. So for example, here by domain, he doesn't find it all the time, but when he does. There, wait, first. So there, for example, here domain, here we have the person's name, the job title, the LinkedIn URL, the email status, So here it is valid, etc. So we gather all that and do it for each type of decision maker, because unfortunately we can't use a comma. So here I have the decision maker category. So here it's sales. And I tried to do comma marketing, comma CEO. It doesn't work. We have to make 3 different calls. So there you go. So here we have 3 branches in parallel that will fetch the decision maker emails for these 3 categories. Then we extract, oh yes, there we go. Also note that if, for example, you restart the workflow and it's the same data and it fetches the same decision makers, the same emails for a given company, and it's within the same month, it won't cost you anything. So it allowed me to run, test and restart the workflow several times to see how it worked without consuming credits. So there you go. Then I have my decision makers and I extract the data that interests me, like the company name. There you go. I gather the person's name, their LinkedIn, their job title, their email, the email status, and the company ID. So there you go. I have everything I need. And there you go. So I have these 3 branches. Here I have a merge that is more there for, it should be called wait here, because I want to wait basically to have gathered all the results from these 3 nodes before moving on to the next step. Otherwise, it will do this and then hop, it will go there and it won't work. So here I have a merge in append 3. So there you go. I chain the results of the 3 nodes that find the decision maker. So of course we could retrieve all the decision makers or make it dynamic. As we saw in the NocoDB database, we have a field for role or position. I don't remember. So we could use that to make it dynamic. So then these results, we will filter them here to only retrieve those where we found the email. So if the email exists, and so there, we have 27 items and we also remove duplicates since there are a few. So there you go. We go from 27 to 21. And now I have another node, NocoDB, to create the contacts. So here, well, yes, I struggled a bit when I did it because the field sent company's ID. Okay, so we are going to go into NocoDB and here in the contacts. So there's the company, here's the company, is company's ID. So actually this field, because it's not visible, I didn't know what it was called, and I had to do a test, meaning select a company manually. And finally, from the companies, what I did was I selected, well, manually linked a contact to see what appeared here. And actually, this field, when it's linked, is named after, so companies, this database is called companies. It was automatically created, UDID, there you go. So if your other database is called, I don't know, client, well, then it will be client IID here. If it was company.ie, well, then it would be company.ie_ID. There you have it. You need to know that. And I searched for a while to find it. So there you go. So we come back here. So here, the company's ID, it's the ID of the company. Okay, for which we are doing the search. So this links the company's table with the contacts one. So here we are in the contact table, you know. Then the person's name, the position, the email, the status of the email, whether it is valid or risky. And the line that is said in URL if it exists. Oh yes, there's something I really like in NocoDB too. It's that we can add binary files, so we can add images as well. So there you go. It records all that. And from there, it will fill in all those fields. It will put the email status, etc. So back in N8N. Now here I have a little code node that is there to determine basically if a company has at least one email. So of the 3 emails I requested, of the 3 positions I requested, does it have at least one? And among these 3, is there one that is valid? So there you go. For example, email status here, valid, because if it has no email or none are valid, at that point, we will go to the fallback to find all the company's generic emails and at least have something. So here I have this little piece of code that I generated, even though I know how to code. So to generate it, you need to explain to ChatGPT or Claude what you have as input, as data, and what you want to retrieve, how you want to manipulate it, and it will write the code in JavaScript for you very easily. There you go. And so in N8N, when you want to retrieve all the items from a previous one, it's $input all. And since they have an extra JSON field, by doing that, I get what's in the JSON, and then I end up with a normal JavaScript, let's say. Not a Java, that's a peculiarity of N8N. So there you go. So now, for example, among the four here, okay, there you go. This one is risky, this one is valid. So there you go. Then I will update the status of the companies to indicate whether we found an email or not. There you go. So here again, I connect my company table. I synchronize it by the company ID, okay, which comes from the previous node, and I set my status. So we found an email, and what is its status? So there you go, email found, valid for this one. So there you go. For all of these, there are emails, but when there aren't any, we will look at the next node. So there you go. Here we have updated, but here now we will retrieve. Now that it's updated, we will retrieve all the company statuses to know for which ones now I need to look for the fallback with all the emails. So here, this is important. So at the limit, this is new. There you go, execute once. Because here we have 10 items and, well, thousands when I did it in production. So we don't want it to wait. We just need to retrieve the company statuses once to know which companies still need the fallback. So here we retrieve everything. So in the settings here, this is where we put execute once. Again, we have retry on fail, etc. And so here, there you go. I retrieve everything, and here I can see the status. So here we found an email, but it is risky for this company. That means that for the three, we found emails, but all three were risky for that one. So this is the status there too, because there are several things. That means now what we're looking for is this. I already started the workflow before. Here are the results I got from the previous run. So that's the status of the emails. Then we'll see now when we look for all the company's emails, that will also have a status. So there you go. Now that I have my statuses, here I have an if node. So if the status contains email found, it means there is at least one email. We don't know yet if it is valid or not, okay? So if we have email found, we will go on this branch. We will filter to see if it contains the word risky, since I put email found risky or valid. So if it contains risky, we continue. Otherwise, we have nothing to add since we have decision makers' emails. We don't need to fetch all the company's emails. We don't need the fallback. So if it contains risky, then on the fails branch, it means we didn't find any email at all. Okay? And here again, I put a merge that will retrieve the companies where the email is risky and those where we didn't find any email at all. So these two types of companies need the fallback. And there we have another call to an email finder. So I go back to my documentation, email finder, and here it's find all emails at a company. And so here I have my endpoint again, which is a post. And there you go. So we only get a credit when we find valid emails and up to 20 results per request. So there you go. Here, repeated searches within the past 30 days are free. So that's what I explained earlier. So there you go. Here the parameters are again the domain or the company and the email type. Here it's any, but well, here it's optional. So yes, we could put or any. So I think that's by default. So it returns both the generic and the personal, so the generic or the personals, where it only returns those with a name. Okay. So there I had left any, so I hadn't put anything. So it retrieved all the emails. So I go back to 1.8.10 and we look at my node get all companies' emails. So here we have the endpoint, and like earlier, if we have the domain, we choose the domain. And if not, it's the company name. And here, there you go. It's the same thing we saw in the node for the decision makers. Oh yes, and here I batched by 20 items and set an interval of 1000 milliseconds between each. I don't know if that was really ultra necessary, but well, it's interesting because it also shows you, and I learned this not long ago, that in fact, when we want to batch, meaning to act in groups because we have an API call and we don't want it to break, before I thought it was always necessary to use a splitting batches loop node, but it's only useful if we also want to include other operations in the loop. Like here, for example, I made a loop because I want to log what happened in my workflow as I go, the results I get in case it breaks. But otherwise, if we just have an API call and we want to do it in batches, for safety, at that point, we can do it in the options, which is simpler and more elegant. So there you go. So here it retrieves all the emails for these companies. Okay. And so then I will update my company emails. So I put them in the company table, and here I retrieve all the emails and I do a join because there you go. It takes a stop and it actually, there you go. It separates them like that with a comma. It makes it a string for me. And so there you go. I want the statuses to know if it's risky or valid. There you go. These are the statuses for all those emails. And again, I synchronize with the ID there. And after that, I close my loop. So here on done, I have all the items we found, but here I do nothing more since we have already stored everything in our NocoDB. So there, we have done everything. It was quite long, but not very complicated if you think about all the steps and understand them. Now you've seen how to fully automate your lead generation, validate email quality, and scale at minimum cost. Now it's your turn. The workflow is available below. And if you run an agency or B2B company and want an expert automation consulting, book a free strategy call with me. The link is below. And let's audit your processes and unlock real growth for your business. And if this video helped you out, don't forget to subscribe, like, and let me know in the comments what you'd like to see next. Bye. See you in the next one.